Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar on doing business in India. This is brought to you by the New South Wales Trade and Investment and the New South Wales Business Chamber. Today we have some very high-profile speakers. Mr. Rohit Matanda coming in direct from Mumbai. He's the Trade Commissioner for New South Wales Government in India. We have the Country Manager, Mr. S.P. Joshi, the Senior Advisor for India for the New South Wales Business Chamber and Australian Business Consulting and Solutions. My name is Ian Bennett. I'm the Senior Manager of International Trade for the New South Wales Chamber and Australian Business Consulting and Solutions. As we all know, that India is becoming a very, very important destination for Australian exports. And this is the key reason for the webinar today, to give you some insights into doing business in India. What are the key drivers? A bit of an overview. Some initiatives that will be brought in by Rohit. A little bit on the free trade agreement, industry sectors, and just generally doing business in India itself. So as Rohit's coming in from Mumbai, we're all hoping that all the telecommunications and IT systems work, and he gets to stay with us the whole way through. He's been online for a while, so I think it's going to be a very successful webinar. And we'll now start off with Rohit giving us a bit of an Indian overview.
Thank you, Ian. Greetings from Mumbai, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here this morning to be able to join you and share my views about the Indian market and the opportunities that it offers. So we'll start off by giving you a India macro picture or an overview, and then take it. So as you may be aware, India is the 6th largest country in the world by area. It's the world's second largest acreage of arable land, with a GDP about $1.84 trillion, which is the 10th largest in the world, and PPP terms, it's the 3rd largest. The GDP growth over the last decade has been an impressive 7.9%. The economy did grow up to 8.5%, 9%, and then dropped down to 5.5% to 6%, averaging to just about 8%. In terms of population, India is the second largest populated country in the world, with 1.25 billion people, and 1 of 6 people in the world are actually an Indian. India also has the world's youngest population, with about 65% of the population below 35 years of age, and 50% of the population below 25 years of age. It's the largest democracy in the world. India is about the second largest of about 750 million people, and it has recently created the largest biometric database in the world, which is about 550 million. In terms of telecom, in India's mobile phone subscriber base is in the world, it's now closing to 1 billion. In the internet users in India over the next 2 years will approximately be 400 million, making it again the second largest internet usage country in the world. The stock markets are doing extremely well at the moment, with the market capitalized approximately $1.4 trillion, with more than 11,000 companies listed on the Indian exchanges. The growth in India has also brought about growth in the building and construction in the country. It is expected that 700 to 900 million square meters of annual commercial and residential space is to be built every year in India, which is like the equivalent of building a new Chicago every year. In terms of trade, India exports approximately $300 billion worth of goods and services, and imports about $450 billion of goods and services. So it is forecasted that by 2030, India will be the world's 3rd largest economy, It will have more than 600 million people living in cities, which is, ladies and gentlemen, twice the current population. It is also expected that 586 million people will be in the middle and upper middle income, which is again twice US population. And also, it shows the opportunity in the market because these are the people who will be consuming a lot of goods and services that will possibly lead to opportunities for Australian exports into India.
Yes, Rohit, just breaking in there, Jossie, have you got a comment on this?
Just like to add on to, probably you will like to see, you would see on the screen a graph which is quite interesting to observe. As you would notice that this graph has been essentially made by World Bank, and it shows how India's middle class is growing. As Rohit said, by 2030 India would be had 600 million people expected to live in the cities, and 5 Indians are expected to be in the middle income segments. Now, when we reach the year 2040, India will have almost 90% of its population as a middle class, which is going to be higher in the world. Plus, India is the second largest country in the world population-wise, and 90% of that would be a huge number. So this is interesting to see how India's middle class is developing. Yeah, next to you, Rohit.
Okay, right. Back to you. The long-term overview for India.
Yes, so in terms of India's growth going forward on the long-term view, the long-term growth drivers are going to be the demographic driven, as I mentioned, a very young population. It will also mean job creation as the economy grows and new skills are imparted to the population. The savings rate in India is very high. The gross savings rate in India is about 30.8% in the financial year 2014, and the household saving rate is about 20%. And the new central government has given a new emphasis to the Indian economy, and we will be discussing that more in the presentation going forward. The second important area is that we now have a pro-reform government which is focusing on manufacturing and infrastructure, and it's got a Make in India program that we'll speak about later. It's focusing on ease of doing business. Currently, India ranks 132 in the world in terms of ease of doing business. The government wants to get into the top 100 and then eventually into the top 50. Government is also trying to revive the investment climate that has gone down in the last few years. Global investment is part of the Make in India program. And the government is also consolidating fiscally, given the challenges around the current account deficit, and thereof. And also, it's going to be, India is going to be a very attractive market versus the rest of the world, given it's got a stable political regime, it's got a majority government after over 30 years. It's a consumption and investment-driven economy, so given the large size of the population, the increasing middle class, there is going to be a lot of internal consumption within India, and the GDP of the country is expected to grow over 7% per annum for the next at least 10 years. So that gives a good growth impetus to the Indian economy, leading to more consumption in the market.
Right, thanks, Rohit. We'll now move across to Jossie to give us a brief overview of the economy.
Thanks, Ian. I'll just when India became an independent country. Owing to the poverty situation, the government adopted a model which was called mixed economy model, whereby they had a lot of interest in the public sector as well. So, Government of India invested in the public sector just to raise funds for some of the important and big projects. While the public sector was playing its own role, it was mainly the public sector that was into the areas like manufacturing, mining, etc., etc. However, over a period of time, things changed, and when the economy became a little stable, private sector started playing a little more important role. And after 1984, the markets were first time open to the foreign companies as well. 1991 saw a major change in the economic setup, whereby the global companies were invited to set up their business in India, and that was the beginning of the reforms as well. So after 1991, India has seen a lot of economic reforms, and today, and that's probably one of the reasons that India has been growing at a rapid rate, which touched at one point of time, it touched 99%, and which is again expected to move over 7% per annum. With the new government taking over, I think it is expected that the reforms would continue to happen, and in fact there could be some very dramatic reforms as well. This is what the expectation is, which would obviously help the economy in future. Just have a look at the economic growth that India has witnessed over a period of time. As I said, at one point of time, India touched 8.9%. That was in the year 2010-11. Well, it's mentioned 2010-11 because India's financial year starts in the April month and ends in March. So we are referring to April to March figures. It dropped down a little bit in the last 2 years, but again has started seeing an upward swing, which already is projected to be 7%. In fact, expected to be more than 7% in the current year. And it may surpass, it may reach a figure of 8% next year. That's what the expectation is. The Indian government has already projected growth of 7.5% during 2015-16. If that happens, probably India would be the fastest growing economy in the world. Just like to touch upon a little bit on the social, the economy. The economy, continuing with the economic side, yes. Since the economy has been growing at a fairly good rate, a lot of investors have shown interest in India. And as a result, the last year, that is 2013 and 14, saw FDI of $36.4 billion US, which is fairly big in size, and it's continuing to grow, and it's expected that it would grow rapidly in the future as well. There has been a growth of nearly 150% increase in the total wealth, in the private wealth, which is enormous. It has risen from US dollars 2 trillion in 2013 to US dollars. It's expected to rise to US dollar 5 trillion in 2018, which is a substantial jump. This figure has been given by Boston Consulting Group. The services constitutes about 57% share in the GDP, which is growing currently at 9%. And foreign exchange reserves are today at about US dollars 394 billion, which is a very comfortable level. Indian middle class, as we already touched upon, is expected to reach 267 million by 2016, and it's growing at about 10% per annum, which is again very high.
What we're saying here is that the Indian economy is really starting to boom, and foreign investment, which was a little bit restricted in the past, the door's wide open. India is open to joint ventures, to greenfield sites, to the just general opening up of the economy, which is a very important thing when we think about the free trade agreement, which we're going to be talking about later on. So India is definitely open for business, and under the new government is really starting to move forward. So Jossi, there's also, besides the business actually works with a social element as well. Could you take us through that as well?
Well, it's hard to understand India. I've been living there for so many years now, but still, even for me, it's very hard. But let me just put together some of the facts. There is tremendous amount of ethnic diversity. The company is very large in size, as Rohit also mentioned, and has several ethnic groups. It's a multi-religion society with secular character. There are so many religions living together, and which so far, I mean, it has been a very successful kind of administration. India has 29 states. It's divided into 29 states, which we normally call as provinces here. It also has 7 union territories which are ruled by the federal government directly. Officially, India has about 18 languages, but then there are more than 200 dialects which are in operation in India at the moment. India, interesting feature of Indian social life is that it has integrated family system. Now, unlike in the Western countries, the Indian families live together even after the marriage. The children sometimes continue to live with their parents. Well, that's out of the respect and the family bonding. But another interesting aspect of this structure is that the family income is combined, and there is a lot of disposable income at hand because the kitchen is common. There are no extra rentals for the young ones, so there is a disposable income at hand for the people, which is a very interesting feature. India can be broadly divided into 4 regional markets. So far as the market characters are concerned, the consumer behavior is concerned, India is not one market, which probably is often misunderstood by a lot of people. India is not one market, it is broadly 4 markets, 4 zones, which is south, east, west, and north. Further, these markets are divided into sub-zones, which are like each state has its own market characteristics. So one has to study these markets deeply to really, before jumping into these markets. There are more than 280 million consumers with the disposable incomes to spend. This is the current data, but this is definitely going to go up in the future.
Right, so we have a social element, but we have a very innovative. We know that India is very technologically advanced, and there's been some very surprising things happen in recent times. So where does technology actually sit in the marketplace?
That's true. Over a period of time, the Indian companies in particular have developed a taste for technology, and they appreciate good technology, that's for sure. And Australia fits in very well into the scheme of things because Australia is regarded as a technology country and which has some niche technologies available. India also respects good technology, that's for sure. The Indian entrepreneurs, they respect technology. They have a good appetite for technology, because it has a strong IT base and IT-related resources, which has been acknowledged worldwide now. India also, besides US and Japan, happens to be the only country which has developed its own supercomputer. Also, India was the first country, this just to show how technology savvy the country is. This was the first country whose space program succeeded at the first attempt, where others have failed, by sending an operational mission to the Mars at the lowest of the cost. This was done at the cost of about $74 million, just $74 million, and succeeded in the first attempt. So that goes on to show how tech-savvy Indian people are. The corporate sector also at the same time has been investing heavily in the research and development. That's also partly because the government of India gives some concessions to the companies who spend more on R&D. There has been high demand from the Indian side for the cost-effective and efficient technologies, and that's going to continue in future as well.
Right, and now obviously with every country, whether it be Australia or India, there's politics. And if we could quickly go through what the political scene is.
Yeah. As Rohit mentioned in the beginning, India is a sovereign democratic republic. India is the largest democracy in the world today. It has been ruled initially by the Indian National Congress, which has been in power for more than 40 years, which has been the oldest party in India. During the period 1991 to 2014, India witnessed a few coalition governments, which are mostly led by the Indian National Congress. Now, coalition compulsions have been there in the past, and that probably was one of the reasons that economy slowed down for 1 or 2 years in between. However, now after a period of about 30 years, the Indian people have now elected a government which has come to the power on its own. Indian Parliament has about 443 or 444 seats, out of which the current party government, which is ruled by BJP, popularly called as Bharatiya Janata Party, that's a People's Party, has about 282 seats in the parliament, which is the absolute majority. So, which means basically the inference is that they have the power to take major decisions, and that should be easy for the government now to take forward the reforms as well.
Right, so Josie, a lot of these reforms are led by the new Prime Minister, who seems to be really moving things along very quickly.
Oh yes, that's true. He is a man who's a doer. Actually, that's how he has been called, and President Obama also called him. He's a man who is on the move, and I think true to his word, he is really on the move. He has come out with a agenda for India for the next 2 decades. He is, in fact, he has set up a clear vision for the country, and he also has set the deadlines as to when he wants to meet them. And he has a strategic plan ahead of him, which is quite transparent, and he shares that with the people through his own website. So, which is an interesting part. It seems that he is in control in totality. He's pretty strong at the moment, and he has a very sincere wish to take India forward.
All right, and there's a new approach to international economic relations coming forward.
That's true. I think during the first 6 months of his tenure, he mostly spent most of the times abroad, including visits to US and Australia as well. The reason is that he wants to develop now good relations, international relations, because international trade is at the back of his mind at the moment. That's the reason. And to do that, he has changed some systems internally as well. That he does the efficiency review of his team. He has started a plan rolling, which is called e-governance. That's again to bring about the transparency. And then he has his approach is basically business-like. I mean, he is a business-oriented person, and he likes to see more from the business point of view, which is good for business. And to do that, he has started a lot of initiatives, which I'll talk about later.
Right, so we've got some major political developments. That $15 billion worth of infrastructure must create opportunities for Australian exporters.
That's right. One thing which is important, probably a lot of people would be willing to understand or waiting to hear about this, is that India has been a very complicated system. It has a very complicated system so far as the sales tax is concerned. After a lot of deliberations, debates, and internal fights, I think finally it has come to the conclusion that by April 2016 they would roll out a new regime, which is called GST. So that would enable the businesses to operate comfortably, because there are not so many state sale tax involved anymore. Currently, there is a central sale tax, there is a state sale tax, and there's excise duty, and so on and so forth. But all will be combined, and there'll be only GST that will make the things much more simpler. Just to tell you how the whole thing has impacted, how new Prime Minister or new government's programs have impacted the economy. I think that's evident from the fact that Mumbai Stock Exchange has gone past 30,000 mark in March 2015, which was just 22,400 in April 2014. So there has been a jump of 34% in just 10 months. That's how the economy has reacted to the government programs. I think it's also important to mention that there are 5 ultra mega power projects which have been planned and announced by the government sector. Each project is 4,000 megawatts. There's an important program by Government of India, which the new Prime Minister has actually announced, which is called Make in India. If you see the logo, which is a logo showing a lion with a lot of gears and machinery inside it, which actually is a depiction of what India is planning. It's planning to be a tiger in the future. So far as the manufacturing is concerned, that's a lion's step. Just giving you some details. I'll give you some brief details of Make in India. This is a major step by the Government of India to encourage the manufacturing in India. Why I'm mentioning this is because this could be of interest to a lot of Australian companies who plan to do some manufacturing in India as well, or who can consider manufacturing in India. The Indian government has a website called Make in India, www.makeinindia.com. All the details are given in the website, but it has essentially listed out 25 sectors which are of interest to Indian government, where there is a lot of trust, and the Government of India would be probably giving some incentives also in this area. It is also ensuring that the intellectual property is protected, and there are some new initiatives as well.
Right. Look, for people wanting to know more about that and how it can work for you, I suggest you go to that website. Unfortunately, we can't cover every bit of that element in the webinar today, otherwise we'll run out of time. But there's a number of reasons why we make in India. We've got a good workforce, a lot of trained engineers, relatively priced labour cost. There are special economic zones that can be used as export manufacturing zones where the goods don't attract duty. Of course, the official language is English. Double taxation avoidance agreements are in place with Australia. The plenty of raw materials around. The IP structures to protect your intellectual property are in place. Not only have you got an opportunity to have product manufactured for re-export, but you've got a very large domestic market and a logistical advantage going through into Southeast Asia, the Middle East and Europe. It is a place where a lot of people are now moving to offshore their manufacturing, where they can have a low-cost, high-quality position, and it also takes their products into the domestic market at no import duty rates. So it's a very good position to consider if you're looking to expand your exporting capacity.
I'd just like to add, Ian, maybe some people may not be aware that the cost of labor in India is just about $5,000 annual for a skilled worker. And the cost of energy is just 15 to 17 cents per kilowatt hour. So just for a comparison's sake. Yeah.
There's some real, some big hits there. So we've now got a thing called Digital India. Imagine India being involved in the digital space. I think every Australian knows that there's a space there for a place where innovation and outsourcing and adopting can fit into place. So I think that if you just quickly look at this slide here, because we actually got to move along. The Indian government is making it an e-place. So a lot of the services, a lot of the government services are now being e-commerced, for a word. The high-speed internet is moving out to the rural areas, which is something Australia would like to have. But there is the ability and the technology and the people with the brain power to create the digital infrastructure, delivering services. And this is all going to be completed by 2019. Wow, isn't it good to have a finish date? But there could be some other government initiatives which, Jossie, you could talk about these ones.
Sure. And yeah, I think there are some of the things which you mentioned to add to that. E-based portal is quite important for you to understand, for everyone to understand, which is ebiz.gov.in. If you go to this portal, this is basically, this guides you through how to do business in India, and it also links you with some of the very important departments directly. It has, it's the attempt on the Indian government's part is to provide a single window for all the investors, and this links to departments like Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, which is responsible for bringing in the FDI into India. and also to Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which deals with the companies, and to, most importantly, to Reserve Bank of India, which is the Central Bank of India. So that's through one portal you can have access to all these departments. Through this portal, also some more things have been simplified. One is the industrial license, which was a nightmare earlier on, but now you can simply log into this web portal and obtain the industrial license through the portal itself. Also, including the industrial entrepreneur memorandum, which is again can be filed online. And the Government of India assures that you would get the licenses within 12 weeks, which is much lesser period than what it was earlier on.
For Australian companies thinking of setting up operations in there, a lot of the agony of the bureaucracy has disappeared. So thanks for that, Jossi. We'll now move across back to Rohit, and he can take us quickly through the new federal government focus.
Thank you, and this new federal government is focused on 3 Ds, which are decision, delivery, and decentralization, and this has been articulated by the Indian Prime Minister. Now, what this government's doing is, it's actually, to give you a cricket analogy, this government is actually playing a test match. That is, their policies have a longer-term vision, and implementation will take time. While at the same time, the expectation from the businesses is that the result should be like a T20 match that we are all getting used to. So keeping this in mind, I'll take you through some of the priorities of the government, which will help India going forward. So first of all, this government articulated that there will be less government and more governance, and under which what they have already done is to merge the relevant ministries to enhance accountability and bring in faster decision making. There are now going to be speedy clearances of projects in a time-bound manner, with the Prime Minister's office directly monitoring certain large projects. There is a focus on reducing bureaucratic layers and empowering the bureaucracy more for them to be able to take decisions rather than waiting for ministers to give them clearances for everything that has become a norm in the past. Their government is also trying to focus on improving India's ranking for ease of doing business. As I mentioned earlier, India is about 132 out of 180 countries at the moment, and they want to be in the top 100 and eventually in the top 50. And last but not the least, this government is also working collaboratively with the states, giving more power to the states that will lead to better execution of various government policies. In terms of e-governance and next generation infrastructure, you already heard about the Digital India program of the government. There is also a big program now to digitize government records and also bring all approval processes within the government online, so that people can be questioned if there are delays and there is transparency in the whole system. And Indian government also plans to build 100 new smart cities in India, which is, we'll talk more about it later. But it's going to be, building of brand new areas of an existing city, refurbishing a part of the city, and looking at various other areas of making, a city smarter, which is better management of water, waste, renewable energy options coming in, etc. In terms of the industry revival, this is one of the biggest focus areas of the government. So you heard about Make in India. Another important area that this government is taking forward are the 2 dedicated freight corridors, and these are the eastern and western freight corridors of about 3,300 kilometers of railway lines to be laid. Investment in the last 5 years in these corridors has been to the tune of about $40 billion US, and the total investment that is expected to take place in these freight corridors is about $135 billion. The western freight corridor is about 1,500 kilometers and is partly funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency in the form of a loan of about $6.5 billion. And the Japanese are also providing about $30 billion US for development of the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, which is part of the Western Freight Corridor, and also will have some new cities coming up along this corridor. The government is also reforming the administrative processes to evaluate faster execution of infrastructure projects like these freight corridors. There is also a focus on providing logistics, infrastructure and power to the industry, which have been key bottlenecks till now in India. Lastly, there is a focus of the government to reduce inflation, and primarily the government is focusing on reducing the prices of agri inputs, bringing in better irrigation, looking at movement of perishable goods, preventing hoarding and black marketing that had led to a very steep increase in prices of fruits and vegetables, thereby impacting a large part of the Indian population. And in terms of job creation, there is a need in India to train 500 million people by 2022 for them to be able to be absorbed in the local workforce. And that's the big challenge that the country faces. That's the big opportunity that India has to reap its demographic dividend. So there is a National Skill Development Council which runs various skill development programs and collaborates with the global agencies from around the world in this area.
Right, Rohit, that's pretty good to see that focus from the government. Now, obviously, the next thing is something that both governments are focusing on, and that's the Comprehensive Economic Agreement.
Yes, that's correct. And in fact, the negotiations for the agreement were launched in May 2011. And since then, there have been 6 rounds of negotiations that have been held, with the last one taking place a few months ago in December 2014. And when Prime Minister Modi visited Australia for the G20 in November and for a bilateral visit, both the Indian and the Australian Prime Ministers committed for an early conclusion of this agreement, and they have set up an ambitious target to conclude this agreement by the end of calendar year 2015. So there is likely to be a lot of action between now and then on this agreement. Currently, DFAT is seeking public submissions for this agreement and the negotiations that are being undertaken. Some of the key issues that were covered in the 6th round of negotiations in December included, good market access, services and investment, rules of origin, customs procedures, sanitary and phytosanitary issues. And negotiations are now expected to accelerate in 2015, with the next round of negotiations expected shortly.
Rohit, now if you could just move, because of the time, if we could just move through these key sectors: agriculture, infrastructure, automotive and healthcare and mining. Just some key points from each one of these. Due to time, we can't go into every single piece of it, but just some key points that would be of interest to Australian exporters.
Sure, so I'll try and make this fast in the interest of time. In terms of agriculture, it accounts for 1/3 of India's GDP, accounts for 1/5 of the total exports. So it's a very important sector. Second largest agricultural land India has, and India is also the largest producer of a number of products, including spices and spice products, milk, pulses, tea, jute, cashew, etc. And also there is an increase of farm activity that is taking place currently in India. In terms of the opportunity that this sector offers, so there are a number of opportunities because there is a dramatic improvement required in terms of productivity in the country, which is low. So there is also a requirement of increasing supply chain management and cold storage capacity, because approximately 30% of all produce in India goes waste because of lack of these facilities. So there's a great opportunity and great investment that this government has to make to improve the agricultural sector. A number of states are also interested in value addition of agri-produce in their own states and are inviting foreign direct investment in this area. In terms of infrastructure, one of the key focus areas of the government, and there likely to be a spend of more than $1 trillion in the current 5-year fifth plan of the Indian government. There is an infrastructure requirement, across the board, but the focus is primarily going to be on roads and railways. The increase in infrastructure investment in the current budget that the government presented has also been increased by $12 billion. The construction equipment demand is likely to rise to about $10 billion US. And as I mentioned earlier, there are 100 new smart cities being planned that are going to offer a number of opportunities from players from Australia to participate in this growth. I won't go through all of this, but we'll touch upon the roads part. The opportunity is worth $60 billion. Railways, as I mentioned, have got 2 dedicated freight corridors coming up. They are going to be spending a lot of money, as announced by the Railways Minister in the budget last month, on safety, on training, on developing new metros. For the defense sector, it's part of one of the key areas that the Prime Minister has highlighted under the Make in India project, wherein the foreign direct investment has been increased to the tune of 49%. India currently is the largest importer of arms in the world, and in the next 10 years, it is expected that it will import $150 billion worth of arms and ammunition from around the world. The government wants to become more independent and manufacture these products in the country, and they're inviting players from around the world to come and participate in this sector through joint ventures with Indian companies, bring the technology in and manufacture in India. Lastly, I'd like to touch upon the real estate market, which is going to grow to $180 billion by 2020, thereby leading to a great demand for building products and services, including green building products and services. In terms of the automotive sector, India is already a large player in this industry, forecasted to become the 3rd largest by 2016. India is the 2nd largest manufacturer of 2-wheelers in the world. It's the largest manufacturer of trucks in the world, the 2nd largest bus manufacturer, and the list goes on. It's in the top 10 for almost all kind of automotive manufacturing. Some of the opportunities that the automotive sector offers include research and development, and these are the areas including lightweighting of vehicles, alternative fuels, advancement in powertrain and phases, vehicle electrification, so on and so forth. There are also new markets being created through a lot of innovation, including a lot of innovation in small car manufacturing. And India is now a global hub for small car manufacturing.
Right, the next one is, just go straight to the healthcare opportunities. We know it's a very big market there.
Yes.
And we'll quickly go just through the opportunities there.
Sure. So India has about 850 beds per million people compared to a world average of 4,000. And there is a need to add approximately 1.2 million beds and create new hospitals in the market. There is also an opportunity in the drug consumption market. There is an opportunity to do collaborative research in discovery, in clinical trials, and other areas. There is going to be a lot of spend in the hospital management IT systems. It's expected that $1 billion in these systems are going to be spent alone in the current financial year. And there is also an increasing medical tourism, which has grown at the rate of 27% in the past 3 years.
Right, so just quickly, the mining industry seems to be growing substantially, looking at their India's own in-country resources. And so there's obviously many opportunities for the mining companies, particularly in IT, geomining. Safety is becoming very paramount. There's a lot of multinationals moving into the mining market in India, and they're bringing their safety requirements along with it. So for training opportunities, it is also a good market in the mining industry. There are more opportunities for businesses in the defense area, the drugs and pharmaceutical, electronic systems, and renewable energy. Sunlight, water, biomass, biofuels are very important elements of the growth in the Indian economy. The services, as we mentioned, take up 60% of GDP. Aviation, that the fleet is growing over the next 5 years. There'll be new airports, so people providing services for any sort of services into the airport, whether it's on-site advertising, whether it's baggage handling. There's many opportunities for the aviation industry. The electronics, India is developing its semiconductor wafer fabrication. It's also obviously into the design of electronic components and telecom products. You can imagine just the domestic market for telecom products is substantial, and it's going to be a gigantic market come 2020. Now, more important, we clicked over that because we want to talk very quickly about etiquette and doing business in India, because to understand India, you've got to go there. So, Rohit, if you could take us through meeting etiquette.
Yeah, sure. So I'll focus on some of the key areas. Normally, handshakes are acceptable, and sometimes there are certain parts of the country or certain types of people who may not offer a handshake to ladies, but normally it's fairly acceptable. Generally, when you are meeting privately held organizations in particular or family-run businesses, try to greet the eldest or the senior-most person first, because hierarchy does matter. And normally that person is going to be the key decision maker, no matter what others in the family, may convey to you. Religion, is also a big influencer. So when you are going out for a dinner or a lunch, or meeting, beef may not be consumed by Hindus, pork may not be consumed by Muslims. So you need to be aware of some of these sensitivities and follow those accordingly. In terms of
I'll bring Jossie on the communications.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, I think what probably we need to take care of is that when we start with Indian businesses, we do not straight away go into the business talks. We just, there needs to be a little bit of a warm-up, which we need some icebreakers. And with Indians, the cricket, there is no better icebreaker than the cricket. Something of that sort. So you need to be a little patient to start the dialogue with Indians. That's very important. The Indians generally address you with the title. It's Mr. or Mrs. Before they become informal, I think it's in a formal manner that they start the business with. They also have so far as the meetings are concerned. They are not really so punctual, but still one needs to be on time for the meetings. It's important that you reach on time. And there will be a lot of talks other than the business. One has to bear that. One has to take care that, keep that in mind as well. The business will not be, of course, decided. The negotiations will not happen right in the first meeting. It will take a couple of meetings. So one has to be patient with the Indians to really go to the next level of business. That's important. And
on the business cards, it's very important that cards are exchanged at the very beginning. Fortunately, in India, you don't have to have it translated with another language on the back, which makes it easy. Always use your right hand in the exchange of cards. There is protocols regarding titles, which Jossie just mentioned. Make sure that you actually use that title. Business meetings, always confirm appointments, but don't understand that they can be cancelled at short notice. Always be there on time. It puts you on the front foot. Arriving late puts your negotiating position back a bit. And persistence. Persistence is one of the key words in the Indian market. There are some challenges in the Indian market that have got to be understood. I'll quickly go through this. There's laws on how land is used, who can use it, how labour is done, and the establishment of a business. Corruption, like any economy, whether it be Australia or India, is present, but you'll find that the bureaucracy is very heavy, and patience becomes virtue. You end up being a very virtuous person by the time you've worked your way through the bureaucracy. Rohit, do I understand that there's traffic delays in Mumbai?
Yes, and now most cities, given the robust growth that is taking place across the country.
So we've got traffic delays, so anticipate these. And there is price and payment problems. There's always a heavy negotiation. Is that right, Jossi?
Negotiation, I mean, they love negotiations. The Indians are really, and they are good at it. So one should be ready to negotiate, which means you have to, the prices that you put on the prior product, you need to consider that it will be negotiated. Payments could be an issue, but not really if the delivery is fine and all that. It's not really an important. And most importantly, if you have the distributors in between, that takes care of the payment situation. Yes, competition is there, and one cannot underestimate. There is competition from Indian manufacturers. There is competition from other exporters into India. So only I think the most important point I like to make here is that it's important that one goes there with a long term in mind, and it's not just one or two transactions. If you have long term in mind, I think you will be most probably successful there.
Jossi, well, here we go. So it's obviously very important to do a market study before you get on the aeroplane and have your strategy in place.
That's absolutely right, Ian. Actually, I've seen a lot of companies who just like to make a telephone call to anyone in India and start discussing business. It's not so. I wish it was so easy, but it's not, unfortunately. Before you go to the market, one has to assess the market feasibility as such for the product or the service that you wish to take to India. So opportunity assessment is very, very important before you take the further next step. Then you need to strategize your market entry. How do you wish to enter? Would it be through distribution, or you like to set up a company there, or you like to join hands with an Indian company? So there are various ways of doing it. Then, of course, it's easy now to set up a subsidiary company in most of the sectors, excepting probably defense on some few restricted areas. There are joint venture partnerships, which we can talk about in detail sometime later, but that's another way of entering. And you can also set up a branch office or project office if it's going to be a temporary sort of presence in India.
Right. We'll just move on here because being the Trade Commissioner for the New South Wales government in India, if you'd like to take on this slide about helping your business succeed.
Yes, sure. So the office in India was established in October 2009, and we've completed slightly over 5 years. It's a team of 3 staff looking at trade and investment between India and New South Wales. We've also got Destination New South Wales co-located with us, who are promoting tourism in the Indian market. And this office was set up to build on the trade and investment relationship with India, focusing on Indian investments into New South Wales to create more jobs and wealth in the New South Wales economy, and to support the export of New South Wales goods and services into India. So we've been working with a lot of Indian businesses to encourage them to invest into New South Wales and supporting New South Wales businesses to look at the Indian market. Yes.
So there's many ways. We've got the New South Wales government people on the ground there ready to help Australian exporters. The New South Wales Chamber also has Jossi on the ground in New Delhi, so we've got the 2 major cities in India, Mumbai and New Delhi covered. A part of what we do in collaboration with the New South Wales government is help develop these strategies. We can help people set up their businesses. We can help them right down to the hand-holding, selection of staff, and working through some of the legal complexities, or even registering your business in India. It's one of the tasks that we're regularly challenged to do, and we have done successfully in the past. Now, we know we have a lot of questions and answers here, but due to the timing, we may be able to get 2 or 3 questions answered here. I've seen some of them come up here. One of them was quite interesting, Jossi, that you could talk about, was this CSR obligation.
Yes, recently the Government of India has stipulated that it would, there's an insistence on companies spending something on the CSR, and it has come out with a scheme whereby they should spend, if a company makes a profit which is above a particular limit, I guess it's about at least 10 million Indian rupee annually. so they have to spend for 2% of the profits into the CSR. That's what it has been done. And for the higher profit earning companies, the CSR limit is on the higher side.
Is on the actual the profit of your company. Just quickly, we've got about 2 minutes left. There was a question here on the import duties for wine. We'll come back to you directly on that because we just have to understand a little bit more about your wine. I think you've heard about, there was a question here about opportunities. I think we've gone through there. It is easy to incorporate a company in India. It's no big deal. It takes a little bit of time, but it's quite straightforward, and you can have 100% Australian ownership. Importing products, someone asked about importing components from China to India. No big deal, just a normal international trade transaction. The free trade agreement, yes, it's happening between Australia and India. As we've just said, it should be concluded by the end of the year. That'll be the text. It'll probably come into force somewhere in 2016. The rest of the questions, we just are some of them are very long and complex, and we'll come back to individually on that. Now, to wrap up, we have a special guest. Our host, Helena from New South Wales Trade and Investment. Helena, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Ian. My name is Helena Danilak, and I work for New South Wales Trade and Investment, where I currently manage our export capability building program. I guess I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us on our Keys to Doing Business in India webinar. This is the first webinar that we've hosted this year as part of our export program offering, and judging from the extremely positive response that we've received to date, I doubt it will be the last. It's been fantastic to see businesses register from as far afield as Western Australia, Singapore, and even the United States. I trust that you've found today's webinar enjoyable, informative, and thought-provoking, as our experts have discussed key contemporary issues related to doing business in India. If you're interested in joining us for further events, whether they be webinars or in-person seminars and export labs, I would encourage you to log on to our website at www.trade.nsw.gov.au, and under the export section we have a regularly updated export events calendar. At the moment, our event series is taking a China focus, and we're busy finalising the rest of our program for the remainder of the year. So again, I would like to thank you for joining us today and for your interest in our export development program, and I'll hand it back over to Ian.
Thanks, Helena. Just finally, it's been a comprehensive topic. We could probably do 2 or 3 webinars on India, and we may even get back to New South Wales Trade and Investment to see if we can do some more detailed webinars on specific industry sectors. But I'd like to firstly thank Rohit for getting up early in the morning to come online to share his knowledge and experience with him. You know where he is, you know where to contact him. He'll come and meet you because he knows how to drive the traffic in Mumbai. Mr. Jossi, he's in Australia with us for the next couple of days, but he'll be back in New Delhi next week. And from me, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you online, and look forward to coming back and answering all the questions that we couldn't get through today. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good day.